Hello Dave is brought to you ad-free by my supporters on Patreon. Become a Patreon yourself and get your name listed as a supporter at the end of every video by following the link in the video description.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. So let's dive into the news and let's see what's been going on. Now, for at least the last week, I don't know if it was the week before that, I've been talking a bit about the future of Elite and where it's going, and especially the lack of information coming from Frontier. And I'm clearly not the only one who is thinking have these thoughts, because Obsidian Ant launched the video this week. A very good video, really enjoyed that, where he goes into a lot of detail. He managed to get his hands on some financial information regarding the future of the future spendings of Elite. These are often semi-public information. You can get access to them. They are public information, so it's not something he has internally. Because of course Frontier is a company registered on, I can't remember which stock exchange it is, but you can buy Frontier stocks if you want to. And of course because of that they have to publish their finances. And the information that was the most interesting to me was, first of all, confirmation of what I already expected, that Elite Dangerous is making Frontier a very healthy amount of money, and they does not seem to have any, there's no indications that they're going to plan to kill off the game, at least not intentionally, in the near future, at least not until 2020. So at least for the next 2 years, it seems that Frontier is planning to continue the Elite Dangerous series. That being said, we still don't have any information, of course, about what is going to come this year in 2019. But it did seem like they were planning something very big for 2020. But again, that could potentially be over a year away from now. So that still leaves us with a bit of a gap, saying, okay, what's going to happen? It's all fine and good if they have a long-term plan, but if nothing is going to happen and no information is going to come out in the next year, I would be not surprised. I would be worried if there would actually be a game at that point or any player base left. Because, I don't know, sticking around with a game where you don't really know what anything about the future prospect is. So even though Frontier does not really seems to talk about what's going to happen with the future Elite, then I'll just have to do it for them. Obsidian in his video also listed up a few suggestions to how the new monetization model for the game could be. I would expect the microtransaction for paint jobs and cosmetics items to stick around. That is, of course, I believe, where the majority of the money is still being made. But they have also said that the next series of updates, there is going to be paid content. Now, we don't really know if it's going to be exclusively paid content, if it's going to be something free, something paid. They have said they're not going to go with a season model that they did with Horizons. The idea with Horizons was it should be a 1-year thing where they would launch something. They promised a series of things that would launch over 1 year, and then after that year there would be a new season, and you would then buy into the next season pass. It would be like a yearly subscription thing to play Elite, but things got delayed, and I think Horizon ended up being 2.5 years, maybe 3. Ended up being quite a long season. So I think that's why they're not doing that again, because they are afraid that the same thing's going to happen, of course. But the two things that was listed was either doing a expansion model where the game gets a DLC that you download, basically what Horizon was, not what it was intended to be, but what Horizon ended up being. Being a DLC, big DLC you download, you get a lot of new stuff. In this case, it was planetary landing and engineering. And then that's it. Then you get that expansion, you have that all fine and dandy. Maybe they'll do smaller additions to that expansion later on, but the idea is you get an expansion, and then there's a one-time thing. But it was also suggested that they're going to do like micro patches or micro DLCs. So as an example of this, it could be something along the lines of, let's say they introduce fleet carriers into the game. But if you want to have access to whatever gameplay will be around the fleet carriers, you have to get a Elite Dangerous Fleet Carrier DLC. And that DLC will then only unlock the gameplay focused around the fleet carriers and whatever that's going to be with that. And it could also be like a larger DLC, could be, let's say now you get atmospheric flight. So you could begin to fly on, let's say, non-inhabited atmospheric planets. So planets or barren atmospheric planets. So planets without like plant life and animal life, but still with an atmosphere. And that could be maybe a small DLC. And then you could get if you also want the ones with life on, then it's another one. And I don't know which model I like the most. I can see strength and benefits with both of them. The strength of having one large DLC that will then be maybe added a few things on afterwards, but basically you have one big one, is that you probably going to end up in the long run maybe spending, and again, it depends what kind of player you are. I mean, if you want everything in Elite, you're probably going to end up spending less if it's just one big DLC. But if it's a lot of small DLCs, if you only have interest in certain areas of the game, then that might be more preferable for you, because you can pick and choose exactly which part of Elite you would then be interested in. So I don't necessarily see the lots of small patches being a negative thing. Again, if you want everything, every DLC, then it's probably going to be a rather expensive adventure. But again, I kind of like the idea of having the option to pick and choose, because I know many players are very focused in a specific area of the game. I mean, I like mining. I mean, I would probably have to get all of them anyway, because I want to cover them. I want to show you guys what's like also, so you get a chance to make your own mind up in case that's the model they go with. And also another benefit that's not maybe directly something that benefits us as players, but hopefully it's going to change the way Frontier can developing and the things they can develop. Because if they do a big patch, they have to make sure they really need to rely on that big patch gets it is very well received by the player community. So if they do a very big patch and it's not well received, then all that work they put into this huge expansion is not going to be wasted, but it's not going to give them back the profit they were hoping for. And at the end of the day, I mean, Frontier is a company registered on a stock exchange, so the bottom line is pretty much the important thing here for them, I guess. But if they did a lot of smaller micro patches, like micro DLCs, they could be a little bit more, they could explore a little bit more with new aspects. They could take more risks, because if they developed let's say they developed a micro patch that then turned out not to be very popular amongst the players, maybe it was just not working as the people wanted it to, then they could just take that one small patch, they could lower the price on that so that it would be a little bit more, let's say they made it really cheap, or they bundled it up with something else maybe to get people in to actually play it. I don't know, but it allows them to be a lot more flexible in their development and take chances on making a micro DLC for something that people may like or people may not like. If we're going to take an example, it could have been something like CQC. A lot of players don't care about CQC, but that would have been a class example of what a micro DLC could be. But it could also be something that could directly influence the main game instead of being a standalone thing. But making these small standalone things might not be such a bad idea. I mean, it's a really good way to test out new ideas for the game. To get an idea about, is this something people are interested in? Do people find it fun? And then maybe introduce it or implement it into the main game at some point. So I can see, as I said, there's a strength and benefits to both of them. So exactly which model I like the most, I don't know. It might even be that they're going down a completely third lane. Obsidian in his video also mentioned instead of continue to develop on Elite Dangerous, making a complete new game like Elite Dangerous 2 or Elite whatever. It would have some other subtitle, I guess, other than Dangerous. Elite Not So Dangerous or Elite Even More Dangerous, I don't know. But again, I find that unlikely to happen, and I know that there's a lot of technical depth. I mean, there's a lot of stuff so technical depth is if you've developed something, you've written a piece of program, but there's something in it that wasn't that was written in a way that it wasn't easy to expand upon later or change later. So it's something hard-coded like in a million places inside the code that makes it extremely difficult to continue to develop, and that's called technical debt. When you have something that you really should go back, redo something, organize your code in the way that makes it easier to maintain in the future. But if it wasn't done that in the beginning, then it is a huge amount of work to go back and do that on a second pass. And there is a lot of this stuff. An example of this is, of course, the hot colors. It's something people have been asking for like a million times, saying, why can't we buy on the store, we can buy paint jobs for our ships and like small thingies that goes in the cockpit. Why can't we buy new hot colors? Why can't you design hot colors so that the UI elements are actually make sense rather than just basically color shifting the UI into different color combinations? Which in many cases turns out gives you an effect that either some colors just does not make sense, or you can't clearly distinguish all the different colors on the hot, like the small radar in front of you, where you both have white, you have the orange ones, you have the green ones, you have your wingmates, and you have the hostiles, which all have different colors. And to me at least, it's important that I can see what the different things are, so I can clearly distinguish these colors. And in many of the cases with the hot, you can't do that easily. This is why I'm still flying with the default colors. But if they could design this, then of course they could then sell that as a cosmetic thing. But they've said that it's simply not possible for them, and I think that's simply down to technical debt. That the colors there is hard coded, meaning it's not like just a parameter they flip somewhere. It is like written into the code. It's basically set in stone. That's the colors the game have, and I think that's why they just can't do it, even though they might want to. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see, and I really hope we're going to get something soon. At least, I hope at least not 2019 is going to be the year where Elite Dangerous just went into hibernation. That would really be a shame, because the game has really got a lot of momentum over the last month, and lots of new players have joined. And I really hope that we can keep that momentum up, keep the new players coming into the game, and keep the ones who already started, keep them interested and stay with the game, because Elite has a huge amount of potential, and I think a year of hibernation would mean that pretty much only the dedicated player base would be left after a year. But anyway, I think that's enough rambling about Elite and the future of Elite. I also have another thing that I want to quickly mention here. I got, if you've been following over on Twitter, I think I posted it on. Also Facebook, actually. I just got this in. This is sent to me from Logitech. It's the new G432, and they have a brand new series of headsets. 4 new headsets come out. This is one of their cheaper headsets they send out for review, because I'm also helping them give away 5 of these. There will be a full review, and that video should be out next week. In that video, I'll first of all do a full review of it, and I will also give you the information about how you actually join up for that giveaway, which is going to happen again starting next week. So if you want a chance to win yourself a new headset, stay tuned for that. And that leaves me just one thing to cover on my talking notes here, and that is the live stream tomorrow. Business as usual, playing Elite Dangerous. And I think this time I want to do some testing on an idea that started, I think was it before Christmas, a long time ago, when I did one of these I Build Your Ships kind of live streams, where pretty much we're just making ship builds. We are like trying to figure out how could you build a specific ship for a specific task. Did that in the past. And it's a ton of fun, and people come up with all kind of silly ideas for ships, and we try to like theorize how could you build it, not actually build them in game with full engineering, but we just build them in Coriolis and see how could we optimize something like this. It's usually a ton of fun. But doing one of those live streams, the idea for a cold Diamondback Explorer came up, and for PvE. So the idea was to build a Diamondback that would be running so cold that you could basically not be targeted. That was the idea, to get your heat level so low, maybe even fly with constant silent running on. If we could manage that, and then we would have to fly without shields, so ideally not. But my idea was I wanted to try and look into that. I really liked the idea, and I give it about a 40 maybe 50% chance of actually working, so I don't have high hopes for it. But I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. I mean, in the off chance that this turns out just to be an awesome build where you're just completely immune to being targeted because they need to be so close to you. Remember, the Diamondback Explorer is a small ship, so you need to be really close to it in order to target if it's silent running. Now, I don't actually know if there have been something at a point, I think, where NPCs could target you and fire at you regardless of whether you were silent running. So that's why I want to do some initial testing just to see how that works, and maybe also see if the NPCs will actually go and try to fire at you with fixed weapons. We're gonna do some testing, and I'm gonna start all that tomorrow. So I hope you're gonna join in and watch that live stream. It might turn out just to be a waste of time, but if nothing else, then at least we had fun along the way. And again, that's gonna be here on YouTube and over on Twitch tomorrow at 8 o'clock in-game time, so I hope to see you there. But that's going to be it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give a like, subscribe to the channel, and remember that you can support me on Patreon if you want to, and there's a link for that. And until next time, I'll see you guys in space.